Chapter 23. After saying goodbye to Hidden Talents, Augie Cooter's life went back to normal, even if it was a different kind of normal than before. Everybody in town knew who he was now, but nobody wanted to write newspaper articles about him anymore. Sales of American cheese slices leveled off, and kids went back to wearing regular shoelaces. David Corbin and his buddies were shocked at first when they heard that Augie had given up a chance to be on TV. But they decided it was pretty cool the way he'd stood up to Danica Perfecto, and Augie was invited to become a regular player at their after-school basketball games. Dawn Perchie and Hannah Hummerman eventually forgave Danica for what she'd done. They went back to eating lunch together at the table by the window. Although Dawn and Hannah absolutely refused to finish her words for her anymore. And as for Danica Perfecto, she held tight to her grudge against Augie Cooter, vowing that someday she would get him back for ruining her plans to go to Hollywood. Especially when, in a rare showing of parental backbone, Mrs. Perfecto handed her daughter a spatula and insisted that she scrape the cheese off her ceiling. Augie was as happy as a clam. The only thing he regretted about deciding not to go on Hidden Talents was that he had planned to give the $10,000 to his parents to pay for new pipes. The cost of pipes became less of an issue, though, when a collector who'd read about the Cooters' store in one of the many newspaper articles written about Augie stopped in and bought that old Howdy Doody hat for a very large sum of money. Mr. Snolanovsky gave Augie an A on his story about Turk and the licorice. He also wrote some very nice things about Augie on his report card, including this: Augie's positive attitude and his good self-esteem make him an excellent role model for his classmates. Mrs. Cooter beamed proudly as she glued the report card into the family scrapbook. One Friday afternoon, Mr. Snolanovsky fourth graders pushed their desks to the side of the room and got ready to square dance. The first dance was a lady's choice, and Amy Schneider chose Augie to be her partner. "So, are you coming over, Augie?" she asked as they hooked elbows and began to swing each other around. "My mom said she would make us popcorn and root beer floats if we want." The final episode of Hidden Talents was going to be on that night, and since Amy knew that Augie didn't have a TV at home, she had invited him to come over and watch it at her house. "What time did you say it starts?" asked Augie. Amy was about to answer when Augie tripped on one of his shoelaces and accidentally stepped on her foot. "Ouch!" cried Amy, but then she giggled and told him to be there at 8 o'clock. The girl who painted with pudding ended up winning the grand prize on Hidden Talents that night. As Augie sat on Amy Schneider's couch, happily munching popcorn and watching the television audience go nuts, clapping and cheering, he couldn't contain himself either. "Prip! Prip!" went Augie, because even though it wasn't him up there on that Hollywood stage, Augie Cooter finally knew what it felt like to be a winner, and he thought it was just about the best feeling in the world.